Okay guys, I have this video here from Dreamcore that is called Path of Exile 2's biggest problem that must be solved. And then he says in here, the gear power problem. And I just released a video talking about how when you are picking up items from the ground that the monsters drop, you are more inclined right now to pick up white and blue items because they are more tradable for crafting or to craft yourself and then sell them than red items, because red items are harder to craft on and are more expensive, and you are going to probably get a bunch of trash affixes. Now, that is for some people a problem. Red items from the ground suck, but white and blue items are cool. That is backwards, right? So since I just made that video and he says in here the gear power problem, I am assuming he's going to talk about something similar, and that is why I want to watch this video. I don't know if it's going to talk about something entirely different and I am just talking shit, but let's see if my prediction is correct. Let's go.
The third Edict update has introduced a few sweeping changes that have had a huge impact on the overall state of Path of Exile 2. The removal of the support gem limit and the extensive additions to crafting specifically are at the top of that list. These changes have shaken up balance in a big way, but balance in Path of Exile 2 is not in a good place right now. And I'm not talking about character to character balance or even skill to skill balance. Those have problems too, but they're bound to be addressed over time as the rest of the game is.
They are fucked up right now. And you guys know that I don't cry a lot. Sometimes I complain a little bit, but I don't cry a lot about balance. But if we want to talk about balance, it is fucked up right now. We know it, we know it.
It's fleshed out with the remaining missing classes and ascendancies, and as new weapon types are added in with new skills and updates to the passive tree. No, the balance that I'm referring to here is exactly where an average character build obtains their power from. Now, this is obviously an extensive list of sources. You have the passive tree and jewels socketed within, you have an ascendancy choice and the nodes that are chosen, there's the character's armor and weapon items, there's flasks and charms, there's also their skills and support gem choices. These things combined make up a character build, and each source of character power should probably be somewhat comparable to each other in terms of how much power is gained from any one source relative to the others. Because by balancing these factors out, you can keep each one in check. There's never a case where one...
I think I know where this is going, and it is not what I was saying. He's going to say that the most amount of power comes from your gear. And that you don't get enough power from your tree, probably. Maybe that is what where he's going, because it is true, by the way. If he says that, he's correct. The most amount of power in your character comes from your gear. And your tree gives you something, but it sucks in comparison to the gear. The gear is everything.
One or several of these components are severely lacking behind the curve because they all kind of rely on each other to balance out a build. However, that's not what we have in Path of Exile 2 right now. In the current game, there's a giant imbalance regarding where character power is coming from, where the passive tree is generally too weak and generic, whilst a character's gear, that being their armor and weapon items, are providing a huge majority of their overall power.
Okay, he was going there, it is true, by the way.
And this right here, in my opinion, is the biggest problem that Path of Exile 2 must solve in the coming updates. Because when you look at a lot of the issues that the game has right now, many of which I discussed in my previous video, a lot of these problems can be traced back to gear providing far too much power relative to anything else.
Which could be cool, but at the same time it creates a problem where a lot of people feel too weak because they don't have good gear, right? So it creates also the feeling of, what do people complain in the campaign? It is too RNG. I was playing with a friend, my friend got a good weapon and the campaign was easy for them. I didn't get a good weapon and the campaign was a pain for me. That is an example. If you get a good weapon because of all the power that the gear provides, it is easy. But if you don't get it, because of all the power the gear provides, it is hard, right? You could say that this is good or whatever. We could discuss if this is good or not. I am just describing what happens, you know. I have to assume Drinkor is going to explain why this is bad.
So let's take a look at a few of those issues. First of all, the player experience throughout Path of Exile 2. Players' experience playing through the game, especially regarding their very first playthrough, is something that can somewhat be curated. GGG have done quite a bit of work on this aspect, with subtle guaranteed drops in specific campaign areas, and points of interest you can visit as you traverse through the acts that reward you for seeking them out, whether it be with a guaranteed rare item drop, or Artificer's Orbs, or Jeweler's Orbs. They've tried to make sure that they can offset the RNG imposed by other systems in the game, by making sure the player has what they need to keep moving forward. However, as useful as many of these guaranteed drops are, they don't really come anywhere close to making up for having bad gear. As an example, gaining the...
Brother, it is like... I promise you guys... I did not pre-watch this video, but he's basically saying stuff that I just said, right?
Guaranteed Jeweler's Orb at the beginning of Act 3 might net you in the region of 20 to 30% more damage from the extra support gem. That's pretty good. But the damage you're dealing is largely determined by your weapon. This is true even for spell builds due to the sheer amount of damage modifiers you can obtain on a wand or a staff, but it's especially true for attack builds, of course, where the base damage is directly derived from weapon damage. If you already had a bad weapon, gaining 20 or 30% more damage isn't going to feel all that impactful. And obviously, if you had a great weapon, well, you were probably already trivializing the game, so now you get to kill things a bit faster, I guess. Now this, of course, rewards knowledge.
What he's saying is true, obviously, right? But I want to get to the point where he explains why this is bad, because I can see people... I can see how it is bad because the gap is too big. If the gap was not as big, it wouldn't be that much of a problem. It would be as intended. Obviously, having a better weapon should provide you with more damage. And yes, RNG is a thing in every RPG. So if you get the item, cool. If you don't get it, it's not cool. The problem, I think, derives from the gap is so big. When you don't get the item, you are so weak that it feels bad. I am trying to come up with this argument because I can hear the argument of someone saying, why is this bad? Why is getting a lot of power from your weapon inherently bad, right? Someone can ask that question. It is intended that you need to have a good weapon to do a lot of damage. That is how the games, these type of games work. You get good gear, you do more damage, right? That is the progression of the game. So someone can argue that. How do we counter that? I think that the counter is that the gap is too big. Okay, it is true. I need to get more power from my weapon. And if you get a cool weapon, you get a lot of damage. But right now, if you are unlucky and you don't get anything, a lot of people get stuck, brother. Because they are too weak.
Which I think is something that must exist in a game like Path of Exile 2. A player that knows how to utilize all of the tools at their disposal, and a player that knows what item modifiers are useful and what's not useful, will be able to navigate Path of Exile 2's campaign without many problems at all, even if they have terrible RNG with bad item drops and currency drops. This is because they'll know how to best utilize whatever resources they get their hands on, and on top of that, they also better understand game mechanics and monster and boss mechanics. However, a player that doesn't know what to do with their currency, for example, not using the essences that they come across, or not making use of their regals or exalted orbs, or not gambling for a weapon upgrade, or not checking the vendor for movement speed boosts. All of these things are knowledge gaps, and the difference in the gameplay experience between a player that knows what to do and one that doesn't is massive. And to be clear, I think this should be a thing. Rewarding player knowledge is a good thing, but right now, far too much player power is gained from items, and not enough is gained from the passive tree and elsewhere.
Exactly, that is the answer, and that is what I'm saying.
The point where it's very hard to offset bad RNG with good passive tree choices.
Yep.
And so let's get on to the single largest contributor to this problem, and I probably should have started the video out with this point, but we'll get on to it now. Gem level modifiers on gear. They're completely out of control.
True, true. What is the way when I am feeling that I am not dealing enough damage? What is the way that I think I can increase my damage? Getting gem levels. Somehow, I improve my gem in some way. I get it to level 20 as far as I can. Like, I get to level 90, I immediately buy in the currency exchange the level 20 gem, obviously. And then I get the plus in whatever I can, in the amulet, in the weapon, in whatever I can get. If I can get the prism of belief that gives me plus levels of the skill, I will get that bad boy and try to get the level of the gem as high as possible. For example, my ritual is at level 30 rake, right? Because you need to get levels, because that is the damage is there, brother. Which again, it is okay that this is good, but at the same time, it is too good. So everybody's doing it. This is a stat that you have to get. When there is a stat that you have to get, I hate it. And I feel that Path of Exile has too many of them. You have to have gem level. You have to have movement speed on the boots. You have to have a spirit on the amulet, for example. You have to have, I don't know. Resistances is fine. I am fine with that. But there are rarity. A lot of people say you have to have some rarity on your gear, which is the worst offender in my opinion, because there is no power that is derived from having rarity. So there comes a point when you are taking agency away from the player, where you put so many affixes that you have to have. You know, I have to get a mirror.
This one item modifier provides way too much power, not just compared to other item modifiers, but compared to everything else. The passive tree, ascendancies, everything else pales in comparison. For most builds, a weapon is complete trash if it doesn't have gem levels.
Exactly.
It can have every other perfect tier 1 modifier, but if it lacks gem levels, it's not good.
Slick.
This is so extreme that a mediocre weapon...
He's being charitable by saying it's not good. No, you don't say it that way. I understand that you don't want to be harsh. But it sucks big, juicy, beanie, donkey dick. That is what happens.
With a gem levels modifier beats a perfect weapon without it. So what's going on here? Well, for some reason you can obtain up to 7 gem levels on a two-handed weapon, then up to 3 on an amulet, more in the case of unique amulets. Then there's the gloves. You can gain some gem levels for melee skills on there too. And then there's even the Prism of Belief jewel that you can gain another 3 gem levels for a specific skill. Now this is just a ridiculous amount of gem levels, especially when you realise how much damage they provide. So let's not even take the most
if he shows the graph, I don't know if he's going to show the graph, but I think you can even go to the database and see how the graph is exponential. The damage from a skill scales exponentially with levels. Let me see if I can find it. By the way, what are the guys from the database thinking putting the database with this logo? My man, fix this, dude. Nobody wants to see this logo in the PoE database, dude. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Okay, I asked ChatGPT to make a graph with the data for Molten Blast, right? I took the data for Molten Blast here from the wiki. So you can see the one that matters is the yellow one. You can see how until level 20, levels matter. Of course, levels matter. You keep getting level, but it is not as drastic. But after level 20, look, from level 20 to 25, you get a lot of damage. From 25 to 30, you get a lot of fucking damage. You see what is happening? That is why getting levels is so important. You get, after 20, stacking levels is too fucking powerful. It's the most powerful thing you can be doing. And if you get to 35, get out of here. You are out of your mind, you know? So yes, this is what happens. I told you that it was exponential.
Extreme example. Let's first just look at a crossbow with and without a gem levels modifier. So a perfect Essence of Battle adds 6 gem levels to attack skills. Explosive Grenade goes from 878% attack damage effectiveness at gem level 20 to 1372% at level 26. That's 56% more damage from a single modifier on a potential 6 affix crossbow. And that's just the weapon. There's also
At that point, you are an idiot. You are brain dead if you don't get it, right? You have to get it, 100%.
the amulet for another 3 gem levels, at which point Explosive Grenade would have 1716% attack damage effectiveness, or about 95% more damage compared to having no gem level modifiers. And you know this gets really ridiculous with two-handed maces and giant's blood and things like that, but this isn't just an end game thing.
The thing is that you can do it because you need a shield, because if you don't use a shield, you suck. You can do weapon swaps though. You can do weapon swaps. And you can do like +6 or +7 on each one. So yes, it gets ridiculous.
The difference between having a weapon with gem level scaling and not having one in the campaign is like night and day. You simply gain too much power from this one modifier. But here's the point. Why is it that a single affix on your weapon can provide up to 7 gem levels, whilst a single notable on the tree may provide just 1 if you're lucky? By the way, these notables on the passive tree, the ones that provide
This is a good fucking point. This is a good fucking point. It wouldn't be as bad if you could get it on the tree, right? At least similar, but in the tree you don't get shit. This is a very good point, Drinkor, brother.
single gem level, they're some of the strongest nodes on the tree if you can make use of them. Now I think gem level modifiers on items need to be toned down, and not just a little bit. Two-handed weapons should probably be able to roll a maximum of maybe 3 gem levels, with that top tier having very low weight, and for amulets, they should use the system that already works from PoE 1. One modifier that rolls +1 to all skill levels, and another set of modifiers for +1 to specific skill types for a total of up to +2, but it's harder to craft and takes 2 affixes rather than 1. Now obviously, this is just one example of gear being too strong and the passive tree and elsewhere not being strong enough. But I think if GGG are able to review some of the more egregious contributors to this problem, they should be able to narrow down the gap between these fluctuations in RNG that some players have experienced. And that way, they also won't need to put anywhere near as many guaranteed progressional drops into the campaign, because you can have a better baseline of expected character power from gear. Now the other side of this issue, of course, is the passive tree and ascendancies. GGG have...
I think the ascendancies are too weak, by the way. I think the ascendancies don't provide enough power, in my opinion. Maybe it is intended that so that you can use as different ascendancies with different things, and they don't want to lock you in on a specific build. And that is one way they can handle that. But I think when you compare it to PoE 1, I think that the ascendancies in PoE 2 are not as impactful as they are in PoE 1. PoE 1, the moment you ascend, you already feel the difference. In PoE 2, when you ascend the first time, nothing really changed. The icon on your thing changed. That is what changed. But in reality, not much change, you know. I think they should be more impactful. And considering all the trouble we have to go through in PoE 2 to ascend, that people hate ascending the Sekemas and the Trial of Chaos, even more give me power through my ascendancy, you know.
Added a lot of new wheels to the tree in patch 0.3, which I think is progress in the right direction, but I'd generally like to see more powerful options on the tree, some more niche build-specific options, and that can go for ascendancies too. I think
we have to also consider the problem of power creep. We are really fucking powerful right now. So if you put more power in the tree and in ascendancies, the game will become easier, right? So I don't know if what they should do is nerf everything else, which people wouldn't like, or buff the tree, buff the ascendancy, nerf a little bit the level 2 skill gems, and just buff the end game, right? Like if tier 3 Sesh is too easy, make it harder, right? Because we are too powerful. Make the content harder, and that's it. Easy as that. And that way you can still give power to us, because if you nerf us, people are going to be mad. People are pussies, man.
when you have ascendancies like the Deadeye that are just generically very powerful, that's quite boring. Ideally, ascendancies should be more niche, providing interesting build-defining options within their niche, rather than just being the generically strong projectile ascendancy like the Deadeye is right now. I think
I agree with this. I like a little bit the openness that ascendancies have, that you can try different stuff. For example, how I am using a leech, which is a caster minion ascendancy, and I am using a camel. That is cool. I am open to do that. So I like that. But at the same time, I think you can make the ascendancy more impactful without taking away the opportunity to do these things, and still maintaining the identity of the ascendancy, right? In fact, you could even give more identity without taking away the variety.
the Warbringer is quite a good example of a niche ascendancy that's done well in the current game. It has the Totem branch with the ancestral minions to provide buffs, it has the Warcry node, which is really powerful and specialized, and then it has the Armor Break branch.
This is my most played ascendancy in the game, by the way.
And even though the inverted armor break isn't that strong at the moment, it's still going in the right direction. It's allowing you to invest into a mechanic and gain something beyond just scaling it like you normally would. It now does something that no other class can access, and I think that's a good idea, even if it could be a bit more powerful. But what are your thoughts on this issue in Path of Exile 2 right now? Let me know what you think by commenting below. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.
This is a very good fucking video, Drinkor. This is, I love Drinkor's videos. All the time I say, hey guys, good video. But this one, I really like this one because you touch on different topics regarding the same thing, that all of them are important, all of them are impactful. You touch on the power on the tree, the identity and power of the ascendancies, the affixes on gear, the affixes that are necessary, which take away the decision on the player of trying to put, like, you are locked in on certain things because of how the game works, and the RNG can fuck you up. Yes, this is really important. Thank you for this video, Drinkor. I think he watches Drinkor's videos because he's known for this type of analytical videos. So I hope he watches this video. It's a good fucking video. The solutions, you will think about them. They are great game designers. The video is to let them know that we think this is a problem, right? They will figure out the solution in the future. We don't know when it is going to happen. But at least we are letting them know, dude, this is happening, right? So, very good video, Drinkor. Thank you very much. What do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I a clown? Am I a genius? Let me know everything in the comments below. I love reading comments even when they don't agree with me. Also remember to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, all that cool stuff. Guys, thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. God bless ya. And remember, don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride.